I've been affiliated with the Politics of Education Association for 20 years. My affiliation has really been a grounding for my own development as a scholar.
PEA has been a wonderful place for me to have a sense of affiliation.
I became very active in the association and found it crucial to my professional growth.
PEA was really the framework for my career, helping me to publish and to teach.
The Politics of Education Association gave me free rein to really explore and think about the implications of policy and politics.
It's not just the academic aspect of it, but it's the kind of friendships I've had. I could never replace that.
The Politics of Education has been a home for me. It's been a place for me to find real friendship and colleagueship, and that's important for me. Tim Mazzoni had told me that I needed to get to the Politics of Education Association, so I did. It was at AERA in Chicago. I didn't know a soul, but I hadn't been in that room a minute when this man walked across the room, put out his hand and said, "I'm Bill Boyd. Welcome to the Politics of Education Association."
The Politics of Education Association began with an organizational meeting at the 1969 meeting of AERA. The initial group of people coming together were largely professors of educational administration who had an interest in things political.
Part of the initial work of PEA was establishing legitimacy as a scholarly group. What is the nature of politics of education? How do we create scholarship around that? How do we inform both policymakers and educational leaders about what politics does in their work?
There was still alive the idea that maybe education was or could be separate from politics.
When I took my first basic course in education, the professor announced that politics had nothing to do with children and families and education.
We think you're not supposed to think about education and politics mixing. So to create it as a field of study and to give it a place of affiliation and legitimation was the most important contribution of PEA.
It is with a full understanding of educational politics that we really can explain the reform conditions of the last 50 years.
The federal marshals made sure no harm came to the children or their parents as they entered and left school.
The major changes that have occurred in politics and education in this country was really traced back to the civil rights movement in the early 60s, the passage under Lyndon Johnson of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act.
We had a very strong interest in federal issues, and state education politics were changing because of their need to deal with urban problems. And we had a robust number of local education scholars looking at everything from elections to who was recruited to school boards.
The Politics of Education Association created yearbooks dealing with some of these topics.
The first yearbook was the Politics of Excellence and Choice in Education.
Today we're calling attention to the way things really are in education.
During the Reagan administration, when the charter school movement was initiated, when the Nation at Risk and Terrence Bell was the Secretary of Education, people were focusing on excellence and efficiency and choice.
A thorough understanding of educational politics also gives us a way to understand the march towards standards and accountability, a march that ended with the passage of No Child Left Behind in 2001.
It's going to be an interesting next 4 years. PEA is going to be right there to watch it and do scholarship and research on it.
During my presidency, I like to call it the elephant in the room, was that there were so few women. It was the proverbial smoke-filled room with white men hanging out and laughing with each other, and I thought, this is a meeting?
During the era, there was a whole group of young women coming into the profession that began to raise questions and focus our attention on some issues we hadn't focused so well on before.
I eventually became the first woman president of Politics of Education Association.
And today, the entire executive board of the Politics of Education Association are women.
The most significant event that occurred when I was president was the 25th anniversary celebration. That event was important because it provided an opportunity for the organization to crystallize its values in ways that were manifest in the awards that we decided to launch. The Stephen K. Bailey Award for intellectual contributions to the field, the Roald F. Campbell Award for contributions to policy and practice, the Bolton Award for service to the Politics of Education organization. It was a very energizing and reflective time.
The question became, does it make sense for the Politics of Ed to remain merely a special interest group, or does it make sense for it to become a division of the American Educational Research Association? The night I was elected, we received word that the executive committee of the American Educational Research Association had pretty much given the go-ahead to form Division L.
When they approved our proposal, they added an element to it that we had never contemplated, and that was the Politics SIG should go out of existence. And that created a lot of consternation.
That period from 98 under Bill Firestone to 2002 was a period of wandering in the wilderness. It became clear that we had effectively lost our voice and a venue for the deeper kind of political analysis that many of us were interested in.
We needed the community that a SIG, a special interest group, would provide.
In 2002, under Ken Wong, we became a SIG.
We kind of resurrected Politics of Education Association.
The Politics of Education is the essential glue that has held the field together over these years and continued to generate momentum for where it needs to go.
I think the Politics of Education Association is important because it brings together scholars who have similar interests to share their ideas.
I think it inspires an intellectual agenda that encourages people to keep their eye on the distribution of power in our school systems and in the broader society.
Well, PEA's role in the future is to build a network of scholars.
My vision is that we would have scholars from around the country researching a common set of local political issues with a common set of research protocols and procedures. And we would begin to aggregate data across localities.
Let's pool our data in ways that can really inform educational policy and practice for the years to come.
I think we have lost an incredible mentor and an incredible leader in the loss of Bill Boyd. But I think he lives on in all of the people that he worked so hard to help.
A crucial task and challenge will be to recruit enough well-trained people into the field to keep it going in a sensible fashion.
The future of the association is bright.
The legacy of the Politics of Education Association is a kind of intergenerational scholarly dialogue.
I think the most important legacy is the people.
So this is a legacy to be proud of and to build upon.
I hope that in 40 years from now, PEA members will be able to say that those of us who led the organization in the beginning of the 21st century set a foundation for their professional success.